Hi guys, welcome to this week's Reclassified here on Ickonic.com. This week I want to take us through the journey that they were taking from Solomon's Temple out into the world and back in again. It correlates with the Garden of Eden and all of that narrative. These are the same stories playing over and over again. Only this week I've seen two films, The Lion King, the second one I think it was. There's clearly this stuff, and they put it into allegories and stories everywhere. And this is kind of like the returning hero or the exiled chosen ones back to their homeland. And also when we're seeing this play out in the transhumanist agenda, which is the same thing, it's about collapsing the world back into that 0 point, the iron soft, the monad. And we're going to have a look at that today and just try to simplify the understanding of how they go out, how the world was born from the Big Bang and back in again. It's like breathing in and out. The same concepts can be put over and over again upon these things. So the first thing we'll look into is the starting point. The real starting point, according to these Kabbalists. Again, this isn't what I believe, this is what they believe and how they explain it to themselves. The Iron Sof. So what is the Iron Sof? We'll have a look at the images of this and see how it correlates to the nomad and all of these things, and even to the ancient symbol of the sun. You can see this all kind of coming together in the same symbology. Again, these are replicated stories over and over again. So the Iron Sof, let's have a look at this. So the Iron Sof, or Ayin Sof in Hebrew, means there is no end in Kabbalah. Is understood as God prior to any self-manifestation in the production of any spiritual realm, probably derived from Solomon Ibn Gabriel's. Definitely did not get that right. Term, the Endless One. Ein Sof may be translated as unending, there is no end, or infinity. It was first used by Azrael, who, sharing the Neoplatonic belief that God can have no desire, thought, word, or action, emphasized by it the negation of any attribution. Of the Ein Sof, nothing can be grasped. It is the origin of the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, or paradoxical divine self-knowledge, nullified within the Ein Sof prior to creation. So this is basically the eminence of everything. Remember last week I think we spoke about the all that is retracting itself to make room to create in. It's like having the room filled up with a big concrete, and you have to move the concrete out of the way to have room to put stuff in, but then taking parts of that concrete to make the thing that you're making. It retracted itself, and this is what the Iron Sof is. It's the all that is. It's all that can be and ever will be, as David would put it in his terminology. This is everything and all potential, and that made way for the creation of this universe. It's the tension before the Big Bang. It's the chaos that really erupted. It is the chaos before the order. So in the Lurianic Kabbalah, the first act of creation, the tzimtzum, self-withdrawal of God to create an empty space, takes place from there, which is what I've just explained. In Hasidic Judaism, the tzimtzum is only the illusionary concealment of the Or Ein Sof, giving rise to the monistic pantheism. Consequently, Hasidism focuses on the Atzumus divine essence, rooted higher within the Godhead than the Ein Sof, which is limited to infinitude and reflected in the essence of the Torah and the soul. It's the everything and the all possibility before the explosion. And this is where it starts. So you have a look at the pictures that will come later on, and you'll see the tree of life. It's kind of like that beginning point. So the Zohar explains the term Ein Sof as: before he gave any shape to the world, before he produced any form, he was alone, without form and without resemblance to anything else. Remember, just recognise that they say he there, because it's the male aspect of the Godhead. Who can then comprehend how he was before the creation? Hence it is forbidden to lend him any form or similitude, or even call him by his sacred name, or to indicate him by a single letter or a single point. That is why in Orthodox and Hasidic teachings they put God with a hyphen in the middle. They daren't say the name. Might be because they don't know how to say the actual name. But after he created the form of the heavenly man, he used him as a chariot within to descend, and he wishes to be called after his form, which is the sacred name, and Yohevave, or Yahweh, YHWH. This is the first name given to them, and actually quite in line with the Kabbalah. Apparently there's 7 names in the Jewish understanding of these texts. So that's really fascinating to me, because 7 is obviously one of their big numbers. In other words, the Iron Sof signifies the nameless being. In another passage from the Zohar, it reduces the term to iron, non-existent. E-I-N. So E-I-N, non-existence. Because God so transcends human understanding as to be practically non-existent. So it's the chaos before the order. So another version of that, Iron Sof, is the monad. This is the monad philosophy. You can see there the picture of the dot in the middle of the circle. That is also an ancient symbol of the sun, but that's been used so many times through the years. But the ancient symbol of the sun and the monad there. The term monad, unity, is used in some cosmic philosophy and cosmogony to refer to a most basic or original substance. As originally conceived by the Pythagoreans, the monad is the supreme being, deity, or the totality of all things. According to some philosophers of the early modern period, most notably Gottfried Wallmann Leibniz, there are infinite monads, which are the basic and immaterial elementary particles or simplest units that can make up the universe. This could be seen as the God particle that they're supposed to be looking for with the CERN, but clearly are not, opening up portals into some weird places. So here are some of the symbols. You can see the Bindu, the Sun, Saturn, and the Monad all use these. So the Bindu chakra, I believe, is just behind the neck there, like on the lower part of the neck there. And you can see that. Look at the Bindu chakra there. That's clearly similar to the symbol of Saturn. There, and Bindu obviously then is also the symbol of the sun, so it would be the original sun, Saturn. These all overlay over each other, and this relates back to what Donald Trump and all of his merry idiots are going on about, returning us back to the golden age. You can see their Saturn on the right, which is obviously part of the Freemasonic upper levels, who the Freemasons at their top level are the Knights Templar, that feed into this, and obviously pushing to go back to the bringing about a new Solomon's Temple. It's all the same thing, and it's fascinating to me anyway. And I think this is really important to understand. The reason why I go over this stuff and try and pick it apart and kind of simplify it as much as I could possibly can is that this is what this cult that's leading us to World War III believe. Now, I'm not going to get everything right, obviously. I'm learning this stuff as we go. It's complicated stuff, goes back thousands of years. But the themes are there. And really, it's the themes that we need to grasp. And then you can get into the language and the signs and symbology of how they communicate each other. But first, you just need to understand what the general agenda and plan is. And it's this stuff. What is the definition of nomad? This was really fascinating to me, because monad, obviously, change the letters around. An anagram of that is nomad. And a nomad is a person who moves from place to place rather than settling down and living in one area. Traditionally, nomads were tribes of people that would travel around in search of food and shelter as needed. So an anagram of monad is nomad, and it's the opposite of everything. It's something that's scattered all over the place and doesn't stop moving. So they use these things, and there is what my friend Wayne McCroy calls synchronistic metadata. And there is something that what my friend Wayne McCroy calls synchronistic metadata. And there is something that my friend Wayne McCroy calls synchronistic metadata. And it seems to be, we understand, and I completely believe, the only thing I really do believe is it's designed to this place as a purpose. It's not an accident. So this metadata, this synchromistic metadata that Wayne talks about, can be seen in this as the fact that words are turned around, anagrams of each other, and they mean different things. They come from a source. There is a design here in language and in symbols and signs and sounds and in maths and in numbers. There is the design to this place, and these guys understand this, and that's our birthright to understand really what's going on. And that was just an example of that. So this is where it gets into the important stuff for today's episode. Now, this is the Temple of Solomon, apparently, although I tend to believe there was never really a temple, but you know, some people do believe there was a first and second temple, and argue that the Western Wall is evidence of the second temple being there. That's down for you to decide. I tend to believe it's an old Roman fort, but it's not part of the temple. It'll be part of the surrounding wall anyway, even if it was part of, you know, the second temple era. So this is the layout of it. So you can see from the left there, the tree of life. So this is where it starts, the iron soft, the monad, for the example of what I'm giving today. I'm not saying anyone else treats it like this, but I'm trying to kind of put our own simple understanding to this. So you're going from the tree of life, the iron soft, the monad, to the Holy of Holies, the holy place, then into the field, outer courtyard, and past the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then out into the wilderness. Now, I'm sure you've kind of seen from there and understand and twigged that, twigged, it's a good pun, that once you pass the tree of knowledge, good and evil, you are excommunicated or exiled from the garden. This is the Garden of Eden story, and what we're looking at here. They all overlay each other. So the tree of life is where it starts, and the Holy of Holies is where Shekinah and Yahweh are an androgynous being, and we'll come to that, how that all plays out. But you can see an example there of how these same allegories are used to represent the start from chaos into some sort of order, and then they want to come back, the return of the Jedi, into that state of chaos again to restart, or the Great Reset, as we'll get to later. Kabbalah associates the Shekinah with the female. So we've talked about Shekinah quite a lot. I don't want to go over this too much, but it's important just to brush over it for this part of the understanding of the narrative. According to Gershom Scholem, the introduction of this idea was one of the most important and lasting innovations of Kabbalism. No other element of Kabbalism won such a degree of popular approval. The feminine Jewish divine presence, the Shekinah, distinguishes Kabbalistic literature from earlier Jewish literature. So the Shekinah. Shekinah is the presence or manifestation of God which has descended to dwell among humanity. Now, we see that in the concept of Shekinah going with the Israelites as they were exiled from the temple and from Jerusalem into Egypt, and the protection of Shekinah. Remember I talked about the blue protection of Shekinah. We have the Statue of Liberty there with this blue teal looking type colour that protects these guys as they are in exile for when they come back. And we looked into last week about how the eternal flame is the only part of the Statue of Liberty that's still gold, because that represents the 600,000 sparks within everybody that's trying to get out and return back to the source. Again, it's this return, a loop, Ouroboros, all the same thing. So the term never appears in the Hebrew Bible, but later rabbis used the word when speaking of God dwelling either in the tabernacle, which is what we've just seen, which was the first element of the Solomon's temple, from the left, so you're going from west to east, or among the people of Israel. Of the principal names of God, it is the only one that is of the feminine gender, so it's the feminine side of God, male and female. These are androgynous gods in Hebrew grammar. Many hold that Shekinah refers to God's feminine aspect, and that's what these Kabbalists believe. Again, there's different versions of the Kabbalah. This cult tend to kind of go along with the Lurianic understandings of Kabbalah more than anything else, but it bleeds literally into other things. Shekinah, the cloud of Yahweh in the Bible. So there you go. It's this protective cloud. A synonym for God's presence in the rabbinic tradition, and a feminine hypothesis in the Kabbalah, is a popular theological image in contemporary Jewish feminist circles. They kind of embraced this Shekinah. They also embraced Lilith as well, which is the female aspect of Samael, which we'll get to. So this is the female aspect of their God. So you've got Yahweh was the male, and Shekinah is the female. Everything is duality. They have to have this dark, light, male, female, left, right, up, down. And here is the example that I gave last week about how they initially had the Statue of Liberty, which is Shekinah, which is Isis, Semiramis, this Virgin Mary, all the same thing. You've got Sol Invictus there as well, because they incorporated some of the pantheons of pagan gods into this, so it dragged the Christians in. And that was like a gold bronze, but they knew over time that would oxidize into this blue teal looking, Peter Deal looking statue, which is the blue Shekinah that's protecting some of the Chabad sects in Brooklyn, which are one of these major groups, as I always bang on about, that are influencing politicians all over the world, Trump and RFK Jr. and all these guys. But that oxidized into blue. They knew that would happen, but they kept the flame gold because that represents the eternal flame of these sparks trapped inside the Gentile or the non-conforming Jewish believer. So now we've got to the point, I want to kind of go back to Solomon's Temple, and the first thing you're going to see when you get to Solomon's Temple, if they ever build it again, or they built replicas of it, and you see it outside every Freemasonic lodge anyway, is the two towers, the twin towers. 911 is the sigil of Saturn. We've been through this many times. It all connects into the gate of Apollo, somewhere over the rainbow. The Matrix, you're stepping into the Matrix once you decide to join the Freemasons, and then you'll decide how far you want to get up, depending on how much you comply, and they test your moral value or lack of values. So Yakin stood on the right side of the portico of Solomon's Temple, while Boaz stood on the left. So what we have here, on the right we have Yakin, and on the left we have Boaz. And we can see here how they invert it. So what I found fascinating and quite confusing for quite some time is that sometimes they switch them around. So you've got Yakin on the right, should be there, but when you look at this image, Yakin's on the left, because you're coming out of the temple here. So you're not looking at the front of the temple, you're looking out into the temple, into the new world, over the rainbow. And this is what this represents. This so above as below. You've got the little symbol there of the monad, or the Iron Sof at the bottom. So this is looking out into the new world, which is over the rainbow, which we know is the 7 Noahide laws. And this is very much to do with the Kabbalah, and that's why they used it during the coronavirus, crown virus. 2 temples went down 9/11, and we know all about that stuff. And it's fascinating there. So you've got the Yakin and Boaz the wrong way round in this image, and you've got like a blue colour and red, which represent the blue shift, red shift. Here again, the wrong way round. This is after. This is coming out of the temple, back into the new world. And this was confused me for quite some time, because they were the wrong way round. So above as below. This is an inversion, and Yakin and Boaz in red and blue there. So Yakin would represent Yahweh, and Boaz would represent Shekinah. These are the two different forces. This is our chemical principles, as we've spoken about before. So Boaz and Yakin, blue shift, red shift. Now this is where you get into the understanding, and I know I've gone over this before, but we're trying to build up this knowledge and put it into such a complex system. Remember, this is thousands of years of this madness that they've put this stuff into. So picking it apart is going to take like an archaeological dig, going over the same areas some of the time. So blue shift, red shift. So the blue is on the left, and this is when you approach the temple. So remember, we just seen the inversion of coming out the temple. This is as you come up to the temple or every Freemasonic lodge. On the left, you will see, and they won't be painted this colour. Very rarely. I've never actually seen it in real life. But on the left would be the blue Boaz, and on the right would be the red Yakin, representing the blue shift and the red shift. So left, right. So the blue represents Shekinah, the right represents Yahweh, the blue represents and the left represents female, the right represents male, and this is the blue shift, red shift. So they're incorporating the nature of reality in there. So when light comes towards you, it becomes more blue. When it goes away for you, it becomes more red. And that's what they base these principles on, because they understand the nature of reality. So there are some truths to this belief system, but they've completely appropriated it for their own madness. So towards and away, they understand the difference in light, and that's why you get somewhere over the rainbow. And the MSNBC logo is the inversion of the light spectrum. So this is the main kind of concept that I am bringing towards this episode. Now, let's try and break this down. So we've seen this before earlier on in the episode. So you start at the source, the tree of life, and that's Ein Sof, that's the monad, that's the one and all that is, all that ever can be. And then you go into the Holy of Holies, which is where the androgynous immortal gods live. So you have Shekinah and Yahweh as one androgynous god, and the Elohim were androgynous gods, one of which was Yahweh. It was a lesser god and a weaker god, and they wanted to swap him out for one of these other gods in the pantheon of pagan gods. It gets very complex and weird, and look into CJB Book's stuff for that stuff, because he's the only one who I think can explain it to the level where it's really understood, and I'm still coming to grasp with it. So you go beyond the veil there and out into the holy place, and this is where Adam and Eve come into the story. So Adam is the first human, obviously, and he was Adam and Eve in one. He was an androgynous being, and the reason why Adam was split into two, according to some Kabbalists, is because Yahweh was jealous, because Adam only recognized Shekinah. He didn't recognize the male aspect of the god. He recognized the female aspect, Shekinah. So that annoyed Yahweh. That's why he's a jealous god. And he split Adam and Eve into two. Remember, this is one interpretation. This isn't what I'm talking about in terms of the Christian text. This is some of the Lurianic Kabbalah elements of it, and in terms of what we're talking about here. So Adam and Eve were split into two human beings. And Lilith and Samael were there as well in the garden, and they were the beast. They were the Satan, I suppose. Lilith and Samael were the male and female aspects of the beast, the snake. So Lilith, and we've seen the blue butterfly being connected to Lilith, and that connects in with Jeffrey Epstein. And go and have a look at the work that I've done with Juliet Bryant on this, because it's fascinating. And I've done some really good episodes with Christopher John Bjerknes as well about this, which are on Ickonic.com, talking about Lilith and what that actually means, and that symbology possibly means in the context of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing with transhumanism, trying to seed the world with his seedy seed. Adam and Eve were there then, and Lilith and Samael were in the courtyard and in the tabernacle. Not literally, but if you place this understanding of Solomon's temple as a concept over the top of this being the Garden of Eden, it's the same concept. It's the fall of man. So the Garden of Eden was the courtyard. It's where Adam and Eve fannied about for a bit, where everything was fine and everything was free, and you didn't need to toil the land, until they got to the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which they were supposed to not have. And then in the Gnostic belief system, the snake in the tree that tempted Eve was doing a good thing by allowing them to have the knowledge to be self-sufficient. Whereas in the Christian text, it's the reversal. That was evil, and they started to sort of become egotistical and want to be like gods. So we come to the tree of knowledge of good and evil there. So Samael, from part of the beast with Lilith, the male part, tempts Eve into eating from the apple, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that knowledge is punished by Yahweh, who's annoyed still about Shekinah overshadowing him. He punishes them by giving them flesh. So no longer were they androgynous, these beings. Adam annoyed Yahweh by not recognizing him, and then became Adam and Eve, split down the middle, male and female. And then they annoyed them again by eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Thus, they were worried about them possibly becoming gods. And the reason why that was such a issue there, apparently, according to some of these beliefs, and this is where CJB Books comes in, and I think this is a fantastic part of the understanding, and an important part of the understanding, is that the tree and the fruit from the tree was not ripe. It wasn't ready to be eaten. So the technology that these guys had the knowledge to create wasn't ready. Humans weren't ready for that. The atom bomb. Look for that. We weren't mature enough. The fruit wasn't mature enough. So for eating from that tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were clothed. They became human. They were no longer immortal beings, and they were exiled from the Garden of Eden. After they were exiled, it's believed in these Kabbalistic belief systems that Samael copulated with Eve and bore Cain. But before that, they had Abel, and Cain and Abel is the next story that we'll go into. So you can see them sliding out the door of the Garden of Eden, away from Solomon's temple. It's the same allegory and the same story. They're going from the Iron Sof, which is all that is, into these androgynous beings. Then they're separating again into Adam and Eve, and then they're being exiled from this innocence that they want to return to. And here you can see an image of the Kabbalistic tree of life placed over the top of Solomon's temple. And it all matches up and it all lines up, and that's the whole point of it. It's the same story. It's the fall of man and the return. And Garden of Eden, Solomon's temple, and the Kabbalistic tree of life are telling you the same, pretty much the same story overall, the same themes, and it's a return. This is what these guys are doing. The whole exile thing is a return. So Temple Mount and the Temple Mount Plaza. So let's have a quick look at what it looks like, or looked like then apparently. So you've got the Alaska Mosque there now, obviously with the Dome of the Rock as well. And what's fascinating about that is that it's the other way round. So where you see Solomon's Temple there in red in the top right hand, that's facing, I believe, west to east, whereas it's the other way round. I think it's facing, well, it would be north to south, I believe, if I'm correct. But that's west to east there. That's how it goes. So when you hear the song Go West, you understand that they're going into this new world. And there's a lot of fascinating things happening in the music industry that I was kind of involved with for a while. East 17 did the song by West End Girls, the Pet Shop Boys, and I believe the manager absolutely knew about this Kabbalistic stuff. They released an album many years later called Dark Light. They knew. Not. I don't believe Tony Mortimer, I believe, knew. I definitely, and the manager was 100%, I believe, Kabbalistic. He had connections to the Krays as well. So that goes back into there. So even in this little picture here, this is from the Chabad website, I believe, you can see the little man there holding the torch, which is obviously the Statue of Liberty, and you've got Shekinah in the sky, which is the moon, and he's holding the spark of divine light there, the eternal flame. So the Temple Mount Plaza is located on Mount Moriah and is also called the Outer Courtyard. The festival pilgrims would gather here before entering the Holy Temple. The Temple Mount featured 5 gates: the 2 Shoulder gates in the south, the Kippanos gate in the west, the Tadi gate in the north, and the Shushan gate in the east. The people that entered the Temple Mount would initially walk to the right, except for mourners. These would walk against the flow of the crowd to the left. This was done to make their situation apparent to the public, thus enabling them to receive condolences. Also, it has obviously an understanding of you're going one way out into the world and you're returning into the world as well to say farewell to the sparks that have returned. I mean, that's quite clear and obvious. So then we came to Jacob, Esau, Cain, Seth, and Abel, and the understanding that these role reversals happen all a lot. So when you see the two snakes, the Caduceus, intertwined, it's because they twist all this stuff up. Again, I don't believe there's any truth to this stuff in terms of actual real world truth, but these people believe this stuff, and this is what's playing out in the Middle East, and for their world to come, this is what the cult believes. Right, so now we come to the tale of two brothers, or four brothers, because they always have to repeat this stuff. So Cain kills Abel. So I was wrong before. Firstborn was actually Cain, and he killed his brother Abel, and it was a jealousy thing. Cain was jealous of Abel because God preferred his offering, Abel's offering, to Cain's. And then we come to a latter kind of repeat of the same story, with less gruesome endings, sort of. So there's Esau and Jacob. So Esau is tricked into selling his birthright to Jacob. Now, this is really important in what we're looking at now in terms of the technology. So remember what CJB Books, Christopher John Biertness, was talking about when he highlighted the fact that the fruit wasn't ripe. What's happening now is that Esau, us, the Gentiles, who are not of this Kabbalistic Jewish faith, and again, it's not all those of the Jewish faith that believe this stuff. It's a tiny fraction. Hasidic, Lurianic, Kabbalistic, Messianic. So Esau sells Jacob his birthright. Now Esau has ploughed the field. He's put all the work in, all the hard work in to create the world out there too. And if you put that in context of today, people like Elon Musk, people like he's not doing it obviously because he's taking on he's stealing their inventions. But the people that work for him are the Esau of the world. We're the ones going out creating these things, and they appropriate them. They steal your birthright. And the reason how Jacob did it to Esau is that he got him so hungry from working all the time and desperate that Esau sold his or swapped his birthright from Isaac and gave it to Jacob because he was hungry for a bowl of soup which was red like blood. He sold his soul. This is exactly what it is. They leech off this stuff. Esau just sat in the tent researching this biblical text all the time. He was lazy and weak physically. And this is what's happening. So when we look at the technology today, they're getting us to create a technology that's going to destroy ourselves. So that's what happened there. So it was a role reversal. And then Jacob later on became Israel, was renamed Israel. So it's the sons of Jacob that are going to inherit the earth, the 12 tribes of Israel. So these are the lines of Jacob and Esau. So this starts off with Terah. So Terah comes from the line of Adam to Seth, to Noah, to Shem, to Terah. Now these are the chosen ones, and that goes into the lost tribes of Israel. And obviously I'm missing out names in between there, but that's the line from Adam. So that's the good line. That's supposed to be the chosen line of them. So you can see it there. It goes Terah, goes to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. See, but then Jacob stole Esau's birthright. And then from Jacob, who becomes Israel, you get the 12 lost tribes of Israel that return to Solomon's temple, to the Iron Soph through the Garden of Eden. And on the other side, we're supposed to be, according to these Kabbalistic nutters, we are of the line of Cain. And that line of Cain is supposed to have died out. So someone could probably explain to me how we are still supposed to be the line of Cain when it died out from the flood. I can't quite get my head around that bit yet, but there's two lines there. But they're inverted. They're not the chosen ones. They stole the birthright there. But they see themselves. Remember, they're writing the script here. They can just flip it whenever they want. I just want to put out there that you guys should go over and follow CJB Books at cjbbooks.com. Christopher John Biertness, and there's his Twitter. He's fantastic. The work that he does and the understanding that he's brought forward is absolutely fascinating. And the main concept here that I've kind of brought into this is this: the fruit wasn't ripe, the technology wasn't ready. So that's why Adam and Eve were chucked out the Garden of Eden or the courtyard of Solomon's temple. And his work is fantastic. It's so in depth. It will take you months to get your head around it if you do at all. But this guy's been doing it for decades, and I would highly recommend his work. So let's go back to this one again. So we're going back in now. So this is where the return to the inverted innocence comes from. This is where they want to reset everything back into itself, restart everything. So this is what we saw earlier, but going back the other way. So instead of being exiled and coming out of Solomon's temple from the Iron Soft, out through the courtyard, and out exiled into the world, as Adam and Eve were, apparently, they're coming back. Their lineage is coming back through. They're coming home. It's coming home. Maybe that's probably what that song meant somewhere down the line. So the first thing they're going to see is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now that fascinates me because this is where it all comes. The tech is ready. Like they're getting all of these artificial technology ready. So the fruit is now ripe. And this is what Christopher John Bjertnæs was talking about. The fruit wasn't ripe before, which turned humans into human beings who could die when they were immortal androgynes before. And that's where they're going back with this technology. The technology is there to make humans back into immortal, or they believe, androgynes. So the fruit is now ripe. They're going to go into the courtyard. They're going to do their offerings there, which will probably be the red heifers there, and up to the gates with Boaz and Yakin there to welcome them, the twin towers, into the tabernacle. And they want to return Shekinah to Yahweh to appease him. So they go back into one in the Holy of Holies. They copulate in the Holy of Holies, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is kept. We'll talk about the Ark of the Covenant in another video and what that's supposed to have in it. But right now, I'll just quickly say that it's supposed to have the 10 Commandments in there, possibly a version of a broken 10 Commandments as well. And the what was actually really interesting, it had the staff or wand or rod of Aaron. Now, Aaron, the high priest, is willow. Another name for Aaron, the high priest, is willow. So we were talking about last week the Google Willow and Elon Musk being over the moon about Google Willow, which is the problem-solving machine that can do it better than anyone else. This is the problem they're trying to solve. They're trying to solve the problem of going back into the temple, back to the Iron Soft, collapsing the world back into one. So within the Ark of the Covenant is the rod or staff of Aaron. And Aaron the high priest is the older brother, I believe, of Moses. And another name for Aaron the high priest is willow. And the willow tree, Google Willow, is where it's going to be connected into. The problem-solving machine is where your Neuralink is going to be connected into. And this is where it's all going to be broadcast from, as the bad guys say themselves. This will be a portal between heaven and earth. And this will also be, or a gateway between heaven and earth is the word they use. And this will be also a broadcasting system to the rest of the world. A broadcasting system to the rest of the world. You can see it all playing out. So in our story, they've gone back in. The fruit is ripe. The tech is ready. The lineage is going back home into the Iron Soft, into innocence, into chaos. It's not order out of chaos. They want to take the order that we've got now, go back into chaos and restart this system. So the non-Israelites are being used to create the tech of the ripened fruit, and that's the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But we will not be allowed to taste it. We'll be used by it, connected to it, but we will not benefit from the fruit that we've grown. And that's the appropriation. That's the stealing of the birthright that goes on with Esau and Jacob became Israel eventually. So willow is Aaron the high priest in Kabbalah, and you can see the willow tree there, as I showed last week with the green willow tree leaves are the digital streams of the Matrix, clearly, in the Matrix films. D-Wave, that's a cube of Saturn, or the land of Nod, which we covered a few weeks back. And your Neuralink will connect the androgynous transhuman, the slaves, those of us that are left, that are not of these 12 tribes, in their mad, insane world, will be connected to their willow system that's housed in the Holy of Holies. This is what they're planning. And this is only for the 1,000 years, I believe, of the 7th millennium, the Sabbath. And then after that, it'll all collapse back into one and it'll start again. You are ploughing the fields like Esau for Jacob to reap the benefits. So you guys out there, if anyone managed to see this, who's working on this technology, you are creating the technology that's going to enslave yourself. And they're allowing you to do it by giving you money and funding because it benefits them in the long run, but you will not benefit from your own work. So this is where it comes to, the Great Reset, the Golden Age of Saturn. It's the Ouroboros. It's the same thing. It's the round and round, the snake eating its tail. You can see it there with the tree of death in the middle. It's not the tree of life, it's the tree of death in the middle there. Always so above as below. The Great Reset, you can see that there. It's their break in the cycle, the reset button. They don't want it to go round and round again. They want to stop this, restart it, and create the world to come as them being the gods of that. And us being, if we exist at all, transhuman slaves to it, and then we wouldn't exist at all. Utterly negligible. That's what some of these lunatics say about consciousness and human understanding and thinking. And there's the Iron Soft, which comes back to the start and where we started before the temple was built. And this all symbolises the same thing. Oh, what a tangled web they weave when first they practice to deceive. They're telling you, Neuralink is the Ouroboros, the figure of 8 Ouroboros, but skewed into the point of where they create the flow. The cybernetic system, which is the study of systems. Whole systems complete, where it goes round and round and round. They study how to change a system. They're trying to play God and break the system and create it anew in their own image. They want to be gods. And this is a very small faction of lunatics that are involved with the Chabad guys. This is a messianic, Kabbalistic belief system that is set up, by the looks of it, many other faiths to play a part in their integral long-term game. And look at the world around us, and look what's happening in the Middle East. And we know from the Temple Mount Institute that they are pushing forward with this stuff. So you don't have to believe me. Go and check it out. They're not hiding it anymore. It's too late for them to hide it. They don't have long enough. Their time is running out. They're terrified of Chronos. They're terrified of time. That's why they're terrified of Saturn, which is Chronos, which is time, old father time. They know they only have so long to get this done. And this is what it's all about. It's all about that. And in the end, it's the beginning. But these are lunatics. These aren't things that are written in the sky, written in the stars. These are not things, I don't believe, that are prophecies or foretold. These are human beings doing this stuff by the power of suggestion over a very, very long time. It's a cult. So guys, I hope that made some sense. So overall, we were looking at basically the fall of man, the creation of the universe going back in on itself, and the return to innocence or chaos, as they are going to call it, because it's an inverted world, to restart it and reset it again, out from the Garden of Eden, out from Solomon's temple, from an androgynous god to Adam and Eve, to now no longer being immortal beings, wearing flesh, out into the world. These guys believe that they are the lineage of Adam and Eve, and we are the lineage of Samael and Eve, and they get to return to the source, and we don't. And that's the long and short of it, I believe, right now. I reserve the right to be wrong and change my opinions as the years go on, but right now that's how I understand it, and hopefully some of that made sense to you. Guys, remember to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and I will see you in a week's time. We've got a fantastic interview coming up now about Solomon's Temple, and this fella's got a fantastic book out. and we go into what this whole Solomon's Temple actually means, because this is central to their madness. I'll see you in a week's time. Take care. Goodbye. Hi guys, welcome to this week's Classified here on Ickonic.com. I'm here with a new guest, Jacob Nordang, which I think I've got that almost right. I'm really pleased to have Jacob on because he's talking about something that is very close to my own research. It's Solomon's Temple. I talk about it all the time, but this end times game where they seem to be heading towards building the temple as part of it and the New Jerusalem, but also his new book talks about it in terms of it being part of this technology kind of transhumanist agenda. So Temple of Solomon is Jacob's new book, and the blurb says this book is about the philosophy or religion of technology grounded in occultism, which in many ways permeates the development of the world, with the objective of establishing a utopian world state with a new man. The new man would be human 2.0. And the author gives a personal account of why he thinks the project is doomed to fail, which is going to be good for people to hear because people are worried about this. But you are one of the very few people that are talking about this and gone to the lengths of actually writing a book about this. To me, this is a linchpin in the end game here in transhumanism. So,
Yeah.
what brought you onto this subject, Jacob?
With the temple. Uh, well, it's like you start somewhere doing research and you find things that you just have to continue with it. And I started out in energy, research about oil, energy, alternative energy. I wrote a PhD thesis about European biofuel policy. And during this work as a PhD candidate, I found some very interesting stuff because I came into the how power works in the world, and European Union is a very good example on how big global networks is working behind the scenes to influence the agenda. And I found out that one of the key groups that were trying to influence energy policy in the European Union was a think tank called the Club of Rome. You know about the Club of Rome, of course. Very, very influential think tank, released a report called The Limits to Growth in the 1970s. And upon investigating this network, the Club of Rome, I found a character called Irving Laszlo. And Irving Laszlo he wrote a report for the Club of Rome, and he also started kind of a global network. It was like a sister organization to the Club of Rome, not with environment that Club of Rome was into, but spirituality, global culture, and these kind of issues. And the idea was to create a kind of global consciousness. Lots of talk about this in this group, and many prominent members of this club, the Club of Budapest, it's called. And when I further investigated this, the thing, it wasn't kind of a part of my PhD work, but it was so interesting. Because when I was doing this study, I found that this Irving Laszlo, a systems theorist, philosopher, he was involved in a couple other projects. One of these projects was called the Noosphere Forum. And this led me into technology, technological singularity, And how would this global consciousness be achieved? It was not like it would evolve organically. It was more, how can we make this happen through the use of technology? And Noosphere Forum, it was very, very strange to come from this Club of Budapest with all these prominent people, Gorbachev and all these. It's like the uh, some religious leaders, and it was some very, very important people, and opened this door to this kind of transhumanist world. It was just one step away, and I found out that one of Irving Laszlo's mentors was called. His name was Oliver Reiser, a philosophy professor at the University of Pittsburgh, that had written a couple of books about how the world would evolve into a kind of a planetary socialism, a planetary society, a perfected world where everybody was supposed to live in harmony. And one of his later books I bought, and it's called Cosmic Humanism and World Unity. And in this book, he describes a plan for the world, a plan that it's about creating or building the Temple of Solomon. And it was just, what is this? I just wanted to know more about it, and this book, Cosmic Humanism, is very, very. It's not easy to digest. It's very complex thoughts in it. Some describe Oliver Rice as a brilliant mind. Of course, he was, but he had these utopian ideas. But these utopian ideas didn't come from Oliver Reiser from the beginning. It wasn't he that had came up with all these things. This is a part of a philosophy, an occult world of ideas that he was a part of, and that brought me into theosophy, because he wrote in a theosophical periodical called The Beacon, published by the Lucis Trust. And also, it was a lot of, upon reading this, a lot of reference to Freemasonry and the philosophers of Freemasonry. So it became very obvious that this was a part of something bigger. And also the connections, Laszlo, that was the Club of Rome member. The Goals for Mankind was also a part of something called the World Future Society, that I found out was, and have done a lot of studies about in my book, Rockefeller Controlling the Game, that had all these utopian ideas. They didn't talk about rebuilding the Temple of Solomon in the World Future Society, but it was very obvious this was the same kind of ideas. It was the same thinking that we can create the perfect society and the perfect human through the use of technology. And it's and this is it's like they describe this as this is the purpose. This is like divinely inspired, and they also, in this group of people, they also have other kind of philosophers that has been important, like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a lot of his thinking came into this group as well. And it soon became obvious for me that this was not just a little fringe group of people. It was actually very, very influential people, people that actually sets policy in the world. And I also found all this thinking in the European Union through their programs in emerging technologies, future and emerging technologies. It's a part of the European Union Horizon program, and I could find the kind of same wording that I found in Oliver Reiser's books in the European Union, and also find that the kind of directorate, the department that was running this, the commissioner was also a member of the Club of Rome, and so so that was also the Club of Rome was very, very a big part of this network. So that led me into do a real investigation about this the Temple of Solomon. That was a long answer on your
No, because it's
question.
exactly what
Mm,
I've kind of found as well. As well, when you look at the likes of Keir Starmer, then guys, and you're looking at someone who's trilateral commission, it's an
yeah,
offshoot of the Club of Rome, and you're looking at the books like the First Global Revolution, when they talk about openly that
yes,
humanity is the worst, is the greatest threat to humanity itself. You see this ideology, really, what this is, and then you trace it over to something that seems like it would be completely separate. A group like Chabad Lubavitch in Brooklyn, and their building of their Solomon Temple, and they openly talk about it being a broadcasting system and a gateway
yes,
between heaven and earth. So this is a huge
yes,
web, isn't it?
yeah, and one thing I don't know if you have studied Oliver Reiser. No. Oliver Reiser was at a think tank called the World Institute in New York that was run by, founded by lumber magnate. His name was Julius Stulman. Julius Stulman was a big supporter of Shabbat. So you find these connections in that direction as well.
And then you look at right now, and you look at Donald Trump, who has deep connections to Chabad. You
Yeah,
have Netanyahu, age-old connections. Putin, Zelensky, all of these big names have connections to this
yeah,
messianic ideology, which is what we're seeing. And the transhumanist part is an essential element. So when you're dragging in the likes of Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and these
yeah.
Silicon Valley technocrats, this is all coming together. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Exactly. It is. And it's now it's very fitting with having the book published now because it's like now they are doing the final push for this.
They are. So what
Yeah.
do you see this Solomon's Temple as being? How would that function within this system, this cybernetic system that they're creating?
Uh, well, Oliver Reiser, he described it as we are. We described it as an organism, the world as an organism. And all we humans are cells in this organism. And this organism, of course, have to have a brain, and they will run this brain. Uh, and I view this also as that they will do this with artificial intelligence. That is, and I write about this in my book that uh, this is what I refer to as the Antichrist. That is the uh, AI system. That's kind of a beast system. and kind of a false copy of the real world and how the real world is functioning. Just copy everything that we are. I mean, that's what science has been doing for a long time, trying to understand the components of the universe and trying to copy these. And well, it can be a good thing with science to understand how things works, but in this case, we're trying to use it in order to control the world and replace it with with an artificial system that will act as God and with us connected in this social credit system and with these masters on top giving us guidelines on how to live our lives. And if we do wrong, we will get punished. They will be the ones that give us the bad, deliver when we have done bad things and earned bad karma. They will. But we already live in that kind of system. If we do bad things happens to us. But it's like they think they can circumvent this. They can create and do a better system as well.
And invert it as well
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
major
It
part of
is.
it. A
Yeah.
major part of it as well is are you talking about the laws they would give us, the Noahide laws, which connect in with the rainbow and they connect in
Mm.
with Solomon's temple in terms of the Kabbalah. It seems like there's a big part of this in, and I know there's different versions of the Kabbalah. I'm talking about the Lurianic Kabbalah they
Yeah.
seem to kind of follow. So there's not just across the board. There's different interpretations of the same writings, and I think people need to come to understand that it's not
Yeah.
the top level. It's what they take from these writings. So
Mm.
how is the kind of Kabbalah kind of feed into this? I know the Chabad guys follow the Lurianic Kabbalah.
Uh, Well, it's very very from the beginning, and then I mean the Kabbalah is like a map of uh, the consciousness and everything. So, and I see the Kabbalah as a system. I don't view it as an evil thing. I view it as if you understand how this world works, you can use it for bad means, and I think that's what they are doing with this. I I don't. It's like it's better for us to have this knowledge, and that's what I think the secret society has been doing. They keep the secrets on how this knowledge that everyone should know, and they use this to separate us uh, so I don't view Kabbalah as I said something bad or evil in itself. It's how you use this
Yeah, I agree.
as a
Completely agree.
science. Yeah.
It's like a hammer. You can either hammer a nail and build a house or
Mm,
hit someone with it. It's a tool to be used. I completely agree. There's no evil intent in the actual teaching itself. It's been weaponized. Something
yeah.
you talked about from the temple. I wanted to run by you. I've just written an article about this and did an episode about this about the hive mind and how the Merovingians used the bee as their
Yeah.
symbol, but also the British royals are absolutely obsessed studying the bee. There is an element of this hive mind mentality. Do you think that's kind of the broadcasting system they might have from Solomon's Temple? And how would that work in this transhumanist world, do you think?
Yes, it is the hive mind, and they refer to this in the European Union. They also call it the noosphere, and a term from that was used by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and also a Russian scientist Vernadsky, and that is about connecting every human to this that we already have. We already are in this system to a large degree. It's just uh, it's just that they want to do it now, build it into our bodies and make this internet of bodies. But we have already with smartphones the I mean, it's spread all over the world now, and we have it in small tribes in the jungle using these smartphones, and also with Elon Musk's system, of course, that will really connect everybody to become, and it's very similar. The idea to a novel by Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End, that talks about this. And Arthur C. Clarke is very interesting as well, because he was a friend of Irving Laszlo, and he wrote the foreword to his book The Macro Shift in 2001, released 2 days before the 9/11
Wow.
incident. Uh, so it's and Arthur Clarke also a part of the World Future Society, like a lot of these people are. Uh, but it's and it's like they have this idea of this evolution, that we are evolving into this hive mind and become as one, and also of course the European Union programs talks about this as well, and how they can achieve certain ends with connecting people working together in a high mind like state.
Yeah, they've actually, I mean, I was looking into this recently and they've got this thing where they kind of use the internet as a medium in between there, but they've got, say, they use the number seven a lot, obviously, in the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
so they used a group, 10 groups of seven, and they connected these people through the internet and shared the basically ideas, and then the AI algorithm came up with its own idea. And what they tried to sell it as, you were separate from putting your idea in. But what people seem to not grasp is that that's the input, but the input output is going to come to the point where people won't know if it's your idea or not. Like you won't know if it's your idea or not. And I think
Yeah.
we haven't got to that point where people have woken up to that. Is that once you don't know the boundaries between you and the technology, what are you now? Which bit is you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's and this has been a gradual process, because we already, before this technology, have this. A lot of people don't have their own ideas, because all their ideas comes from TV series and
Mm.
magazines, and they don't think for, or they don't, it's why think for your own? It's or something, when they think they know something, it's just something they have read that thousands of other people have read, and they just know. So it's already that we already have it, so it's very easy to take it to the next level.
It's a really good point that the beast system is already there and has been for a long time, maybe thousands of years. But we're waking up to the point where it can, if you've always woke up around it, like the symbology of the Masons that is everywhere.
Yeah.
The fleur de lis literally is down every street, um, which is the bee. But if it's everywhere, it's it's normalized. That's the way the world is. But they know there is another thing out there connecting us to it. Do you think these guys that want to run the temple with AI, and I agree with you, it's called Rehoboam even in the series Westworld on
Mhm.
Prime, which is the son of Solomon. Um, do you think they know there is another connection there? They're trying to kind of play God, really, or usurp God?
But this is playing God. Of
Yeah.
course it is. Uh, that's the ultimate power to use against people. because this time it's before we have had uh, a system with the churches and priesthood that uh, tell people and be an intermediary between the people and God. But in this case, they can transmit God directly into your head. So that's powerful. That's such a power to do that, and they will be able to convince people. And if you are born into that system, you have never seen anything outside the system. Well, you will believe in it.
Yeah, when you if you're
It
born plugged in, how do you
Yeah.
know you were
How
ever
would you
plugged in?
know anything else?
Mm.
And you will believe whatever this AI system tells you.
It makes you kind of scared. Is that already what we're living in?
Well, not really. I think they want to come to that point, but still we have, I mean, there's a lot of people talking about we already living in a matrix and so on. um, I don't really agree with this. Would be like we already live in a matrix, and now we're going to create a new matrix, and when we have created that matrix, we will create a new matrix within matrix.
Mm.
And of course we have people that philosophers that talks about this as well. But I don't think this is and I discuss this in the book, that uh, we actually have a perfect system that we are living in already. And I think that this system has a mechanism in it that if someone is trying to usurp it, take control of copy it, and this mechanism will be released, triggered, so that a lot of people just suddenly, boom, there's something happening, uh, and starting to act to change this. And like myself, for example, I found some stuff that made me, oh shit, this is something. I have to do this. It was, I couldn't stop myself,
Mm.
even though it was not the most wise career move to do it, because if you start to investigate these things, it's not popular. But I had to do it. I had to get my PhD thesis out and spread to ordinary people as well, not just in academia. But so it was kind of something what was awakened within myself. So I had to do it, and I met so many people now that describes it this way. They had to do it, and now we are kind of coming together. And because at first it's very lonely to be this
Yeah.
person that see these connections, and when you find one or two or three, and suddenly you become something. And But I think in the end will be such a large group of people that this usurping of the system won't work. Because people get aware what is the truth, and then it will just fail.
Yeah, I
And
see what you're saying there. That was really good point. Is the way you described that there was exactly the same as describing what I was saying from the Solomon's Temple in terms of the beehive mind, passing that
yeah,
information on from the queen bee. It's actually happening elsewhere, and obviously there's more numbers. We've got the numbers, so the hive, our hive, would be far bigger than their tiny few thousand lunatics of this messianic hive. But one thing about what I really like about your book is that you said that it's doomed to fail, and I think people really need to hear that now. Why do you believe that it's doomed to fail? How did you come to that conclusion?
that is because of things that happen in my own life. So the last chapter is called Inevitable, uh, and it talks about my personal journey. And so it's a very personal story on how I uh, it's like uh, you find a lot of synchronicities happened in my life that uh, get got me to uh, I got a larger view of life and how things are working, and it was like I got help. I
Mm.
was guided by things happening, people I've met, and it sometimes you can see it as, oh, it's just a coincidence, but it was a lot of coincidences that came to me, and it was giving me clues all the time on this is the right path, and and then this book is a kind of a process of 10 years. 10 years ago, I had the vision, I had to write this book. And the 10 years that has passed since then, a lot of things has happened that has been very, very positive, and it has pointed in this direction that made me to formulate this thesis that uh, we have this mechanism, we have this, we are guided, we get this help, and this will in the end overthrow uh, the system. It's just what I uh, have experienced. So it's based on experience. It's not just something that I have thought of. It's just okay. This is a pattern here. I can follow this, uh, and so and if you really dig into and look into your own life and these things, you find this magic all the time. Uh, so I won't go into I think I will leave the personal things to those who will read the book later, but I think it might be a help for a lot of people also to read this, and also uh, to view themselves and see that this is uh, something that maybe has happened in their lives as well. And this is not to be. I think some people can see themselves as, oh no, it's just me, as it's just my mind.
Mm.
But it's actually these things are happening, and I find proof of it all the time, and also a simple thing as talking to you about the Temple of Solomon thing. That's how the universe kind of gets us together to solve this mystery and puzzle, and also it's and be and also kind of be our own heroes in this game. Sometimes I think of the whole life experience as a kind of a game where you come in this world and have a vision, a task that you are supposed to do. Can take a time before you understand what it is, and then you solve uh, uh, kind of it's like you play a game, and you meet the boss in the in
Yeah.
the end, and you have to beat the boss, and then you got new powers and can continue the game. And uh, so I've actually viewed my life kind of that, and now we have I think are on a very high level now.
I think we
Yeah,
are, yeah. No, I agree, and
yeah,
that's I think a lot of people would view their lives like that, and especially the synchronicity thing,
yeah,
especially with looking into this information. When you follow this information and brave enough to follow it, when people are kind of trying to dissuade you from doing it. I had a similar situation that I first met David Icke and his boys 7 years ago in a room in Norwich at an event, and then 7 years later, I'm on in the same room at another tour, speak in with David on stage, presenting the same event. And it's like the synchronicity to be in that same
yeah.
room gives me
Mm.
goosebumps because you're tapped into something, and just by following your heart, and it is your heart. You're kind of, this is right, the
Yeah,
right thing to
this the
do.
right thing. Exactly.
Do you
Mm.
think this cult? There's a game called Agio or Agio, which is an old game of chess, really, and it says that they actually, anyone who plays the game knows that the because it's black and white squares, the light square is going to win, but the purpose of these kind of dark occultists was trying to be on the right team at the very end before the game ends. Although they know that the good wins, they want to use almost invert what good and evil means. Have you
Yeah.
seen a lot of these kind of trends of inverting what everything means? It's all upside down at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, naturally, of course, I've seen it, and that's what we see all the time with this agendas playing out at the moment. Everything is inverted. Everything is crazy. It's weird Mageddon. Everything. It's just so very, very strange times,
It is real
and it
strange times. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
so when it comes to the temple, Solomon's temple, how important is this? Not just as a physical building, but in terms as well as the physical building, in terms as a spiritual and ideological principle. How important is that temple inside their New Jerusalem to them? Because it seems to be that's the, almost like maybe not the end boss, but it's certainly the one before you go through the doors, I would say, to meet the end. It's very important, this temple. Is through the Knights Templar, through the
yeah.
Freemasons, through Chabad Lubavitch. They're all fixated on this temple.
Yes, they are, and also with the end times and with the Messiah
Hmm.
or the second coming of Christ. Uh, you find it everywhere. You find it in and very much in as these groups I talk about theosophists loses trust, uh, talking about the world teacher coming and Shabbat, of course, Messiah. And yes, it's I mean it's everywhere, and it's so important in not just these occult groups, but in religion. So so of course the temple is everything, and but it's like Oliver Rice, he talks about the temple as a spiritual thing. Actually, it's a spiritual thing, but they have inverted the spirituality in it, and mix up this with technology in a very very peculiar way.
Mm. Yeah, they have. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
also they've done the inversion of it. Also, they've kind of followed the back engineered the principles of the Kabbalah or the Tree of Life.
yeah,
So
mm,
everything's materialistic. So at the bottom of their Tree of Life is Malkut, which is the material world or Earth, some people call it. So
yeah.
they've actually took a spiritual principle and built it into a building. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, but a building that is, Oliver Isis says, this is not a temple in Jerusalem. This is a temple in the sky,
Hmm.
and that's the satellite system that the Elon Musk system. So that's if this is the technological system that surrounds us. That is the temple. That's the real temple. But still, it has an importance with also the physical building in Jerusalem. Uh, but it's that will be more symbolic, but because the system that they are building, the temple that we are going to be a part of, that is built in the sky, and the satellites and the connections and the servers and the routers and everything that's and uh, and we as cells in the technological structure.
Well, that would make sense in that, yeah, we'll be part of the cybernetic loop. But
Yeah,
the actual the way we would connect with I say we, then when this isn't going to happen, by the way, I think these people are lunatics. They're just going to
yeah,
unfortunately hurt a lot of people trying to get this done, which they're doing already, and they have done for thousands of years. But the temple would be where we see this thing, we feel it. it all, which would be, so that would make total sense that it's not just not a physical temple. That's kind of a monument to it.
Yeah,
It's
it
actually
is.
here and out
Yeah,
there.
and then we are a part of that. That's the false temple. You are a part of something, and you are in connection with God, the AI God, the real temple. When you are in the real temple, you are in connection with the source, and you get the inspiration, you get the creativity, all these things. That's the real temple, and that's what I write about in my book as well. And that's what I think will happen because the real temple is that is perfect. You can't, and I trace some of these ideas back to actually John Dee, Dr. John Dee
Hmm.
in England, with with ideas of perfecting the things that God left undone, and that when we could see the scientific technological revolution coming out of this. Of course, with very good things as well. I mean, it's not like it's bad inventing things. I mean, that's magic. That's fantastic to what the things we have done. But this is a step further. This is when you're using all this knowledge just to create a system without a god uh, or a false god.
Mm.
That's something else.
Do you think, I often think about this with it in terms of the Gnostics used to talk about this kind of archon um, mentality that had no creativity. They had no way of making things up. They had no imagination. I wonder if this, at the very top, black nobility, bloodlines, maybe, they don't have a connection to this original source that you were talking about. So therefore, they want to hijack and create their own. Because I wonder, they seem to
Yeah.
use people as
Yes.
for their own creative like ideas, but they can't come up with any of them on their own.
No, no, they have to have the ordinary people. They have to have the geniuses of the world. But I don't know and how how we will pull it off in the end. Because if you get it is, I mean, there's a lot of things we have to get rid of these people in the
Mm.
end, all these useless eaters, all these ordinary people, and then we will live in this our fantastic world run by robots, and live forever with the technology we have, and overcoming death. and and it's just hubris. And of course, upon reading about these thoughts, it's very much they want to understand uh, how where does inspiration come from, and how can we get it? How can we copy it? uh, but I don't see a lot of people talk about archontic energy and so on. But it's, I mean, it's psychopathy.
Yeah.
But I have a chapter about this in my book as well, about the kind of people that always gets to the top in the in this, just for the power bit. Uh, but it's they can only lose in the end because they don't have creativity for real. And almost all people that I know of that is into these things and understood, or no, everyone but I really understand it, are very creative people. And a lot of people, musicians as well, I know that it's understands these things on another level, have a more holistic view of it.
That's why they try and always demonize the left. If you ever look, like Shekinah is the, or the female is the evil side
Yeah,
of things. It's always the left brain. So it's quite clear that they're trying to demonize the creative impulse, the loving, expressive, artistic impulse of it. They also they want to kind of be protected by it as well, which is kind of how confused these people actually are. Someone like Elon Musk, though, how aware do you think he is of the position that he's been put in? He seems to me as someone who's been grown up in a family where his dad told him that he was basically useless, and his mother told him he was a genius, and that kind of split him because his
Yeah,
ideas that he's come out with, clearly he's not the front man of anything he's
yeah,
doing, obviously, um, but they're just really bad. And it's you almost kind of and he said he's on this spectrum of autism, which is quite clear to me.
mm,
um they use these people, don't they? It's quite sad to see. They did it with Greta Thunberg, who had
yeah.
she had Asperger's. I
Mm.
think they do genuinely target people with these kind of like autistic traits to use.
Yes, absolutely. Especially and with the IT revolution, these people has come to the front and given a position, and we can see it with a lot of people, not just the IT gurus and but also activists for causes like Greta, of course. With uh, they are these people, sometimes very sensitive as well, but very, very useful. And they haven't had the opportunities before in this world to actually do something and go to these big meetings and suddenly they just get all the money in the world or recognition and they get prizes and everything for them, um, but just to be used. And
Mm.
I think absolutely that Elon Musk is just yeah. I mean, it's not his own ideas.
They're not.
He's not the
And
man behind these things. And I mean, it's just the defense industry that's in the background and perfect poster guy for this.
he absolutely is. I
Yeah,
mean, they even put him in Iron Man, and iron is the alchemical element of Mars. So he was Mars
yeah,
man, and they put all
yeah,
of these kind of things in there, and he'll be taught. He was called Elon, and they were named him basically after a von Braun book, who was obviously a
yeah.
rocket scientist from Germany, and I think it was called Project Mars or Mars Project. And he's clearly been brainwashed into thinking he's a genius when he isn't, unfortunately. But it's probably actually deep down quite a nice bloke. It's just that he's been abused and used. I do feel sorry for him because they're the type of people that are going to be chucked to the side at the very end of this. Who I know we said the defense contractors and these, but there is the occult element of this, though. There is a dark magic with a K. You mentioned theosophy, and I know that Aleister Crowley had some elements of theosophy in what he did. There is an element of this. We know L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were very connected
Yeah.
to theosophy and connected to space, NASA, and all of these things. So the occult is a huge backdrop to um, and magic with a K to the defense departments.
Yes, it is. And also intelligence has always been very connected with the occult. Crowley, for example. And I don't know, some people say that Madame Blavatsky was a Russian agent. And so they are very, very, in intelligence and military, very, very close to these occult ideas. And of course, the secret societies that has been working behind the scenes with this. And as I mentioned, Dr. John Dee, uh, Elizabeth I, her kind of magician, that also was the 007, the first one, and British and English intelligence, and working with. So I have a chapter about John Dee in the book and the connections to the modern era
He's a
and how.
fascinating guy, isn't he? Because they claim to be obviously big Christian and Church of England, but you've got an occultist, John Dee, there, who was really seems to be where, as you just pointed out, where secret services this in Britain, MI5, MI6, these type of things started, seem to be around about those times. So, and then we have Queen Elizabeth II, who was a druid. So they clearly involved with this occultist stuff beyond the intelligence, beyond the military, beyond their facades of religion. There's this dark magic that goes so far back, doesn't it? And it's quite obvious to see.
Yes, it is. I mean, and that's where you find they want knowledge. And as we talked before about the Kabbalah, those systems, this understanding how things are working, and you can use it, and so it all connects into this. And we know also that we go from John Dee to Aleister Crowley and Parsons, and it's the same kind of ideas running it all.
It is. It's really one of the things I just looked in recently, and I'll get your kind of take on it. So you've gone from, yeah, John Dee to Parsons to Crowley. I do believe, especially if you look into New Mexico and what's going on there, Epstein was very much part of this occult rituals that were going on there. And that in turn, I think, is something to do with the Antichrist Moonchild baby situation, which bleeds into what literally bleeds into the British royals. Do you think there's anything to that, or am I just plucking it out of thin air?
The Epstein case, yeah, Epstein is interesting, and because he was very, very involved in this, and also a member of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations, and very connected to the Rockefellers and all these people, and intelligence, of course, intelligence, and all these ideas with transhumanism. With transhumanism, we can find that it has evolved out of these occult ideas. The bad side of where do you find it in ideas in Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry, and on how to evolve, how the humans shall be responsible for evolution, and also these eugenicist ideas, always a part of elite thinking. So, so it's no, yeah. I guess we can find a lot of these things with occult in the Epstein case, and probably ritualistic stuff going on, but we that hasn't been presented for us yet.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely part of it as well, underground in New Mexico. What would you like to, when you were writing this book, or when someone picks up this book and obviously reads it, what is it that you want people to learn from this book, and come out with at the end that maybe they didn't know going in?
Uh, but we will win in the end. I think that's because that's what I end with. It's like this is a futile. It's like I think some stories in the Bible uh, tells a story that we should learn from, and that's the story of the Tower of Babel. It's like sometimes I think this has been going on for a couple of times before. We have had the Tower of Babel scenario with this. It's like we have these people with interesting power and get power over others, and they want to create this system. They strive for power all the time, and then it always end in catastrophe. Their system breaks down totally, and then they begin again. Um, but they never learn, or it's like they can't help it. It's like it's like how these people function. They get when you get into this power strive for this, you can't help yourself. You just have to do it, and but you can't win. It's impossible to win in this game in the end if you um, black and white can't they are a part of a system. We the thing is the big system that we are in, we have evil and we have good.
Mm.
But you can't, and if the good side thinks we have to let's kill all the evil people. You become evil if you
Yes, you
do
do.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so it's impossible. And I mean, like the church needs Satan. that's that's uh, because then you will get protection from someone. So it's built in the system, but we have these traits in us, and if we misuse those traits and no, don't learn from mistakes, we will create our own hell. But if we learn from our lessons and do the right choices in the end, we will uh, can create a paradise for ourselves. I think that's one thing that I really want to tell in this book as well, that don't try to create a utopia.
Mm.
You can create a utopia for yourself, maybe for your family if you agree upon something, but the idea is to make a global utopia. Bad idea. Very bad, because utopia for one person, it's not, it could be a dystopia for another person. So I have it's very, very hard to understand, because I don't think we have a psychopaths that uses these people, but we have a lot of people that are uh, genuinely believe they are working for this good society and this global wonderful world where we'll be a human family and we just um, chant hallelujah and everything, and everybody will be happy forever. But I don't. It don't work like that. And as I say, in the end, we have to work every day with ourselves. We never became will be perfect. We can strive to be good humans, but we know from if I don't eat enough someday, I get irritated. I might say some stupid things to people because of that. Uh, I have to work on myself every day to stay in balance. That's
Mm.
how it is.
And
And
that's the
try
problem.
try to create a system that keeps us in balance. That's no.
And
That's
that's
just
it, the
stupid.
balance between the left and right and the balance between good and
Yeah,
evil. You need both to be able to balance itself out. And they're trying to control it from the top, which is obviously triangulation. And I mean, it's all
yeah,
there for people to understand. It's actually very basic stuff in terms of
yeah. It
common.
is.
It is common
Mm,
sense, really, and
yeah,
that's what you were
exactly.
talking about. That connection to something else is that common sense of and I bring this up a lot. As children know right from wrong, they do know good from evil. You don't need to
Yeah,
teach them that; they do know it. It's just that they try and twist it into meaning something else or excuse their behavior as they get older into these occult things, but you know innately good from evil, so
yeah.
you know you have the decision to make in each and every day. And I completely agree with you, and you're doing fantastic work with your books and your work, keeping this message going. We're getting to a point in a very, very hairy time for people, especially look what's going on in the Middle East. This is pushing towards the end of their end game, obviously. But I completely agree with you. It's a losing battle, but I just worry that a lot of people are going to get hurt in the process. That's my worry.
Yes, yes, of course. That's the sad part of it. Yeah.
So where can people find your book? And thank you for your time. It's fantastic to chat with you.
Yes, my book can be found on my, for now, only on my in my web shop, because this is a very unique book. It's in 777 copies, Uh, and that's of course 777 is about perfection.
Yep.
Yeah, the strive for perfection. So that's why. But it's found on my in my web shop at you can find it on my through my webpage jacobnordangard.se. And also my other books. I have books that you can find on the enemy bookstore, Amazon. I have an American publisher that has their books sold through Amazon, and that's Rockefeller Controlling the Game and the Global Coup d'etat that came out in English just a couple of months ago. So yeah, that's where you find my English material, and I also have a Substack where where you can find my latest work.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll
Yeah,
make sure I put all the links on the video here, and also head over to you've got an X account as well, which is where I found you. So
yeah,
I will
exactly.
make sure we put that there. So thank you, Jacob, for your time. I really appreciate it. So go and have a look at the website, which will have the link on the video here. Temple of Solomon. This is the subject matter that I think is incredibly important. Whether it's important to us, it's definitely important to them, so it should be important to us.
Yes,
In terms of
absolutely.
pulling down exactly what they're going to do, which is going to fall down anyway. But let's try and mitigate the as much damage as we possibly can. Jacob, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Right, take care. Goodbye. We'll see you in a week's time. And remember to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Take care. Goodbye.